Hi, hello, good morning, and welcome to our Singapore Current Affairs live show with myself, Prabu Ramachandran, and Dr. Michael Fang joins me. Uh, Hi, hello, good
Hello, hi.
morning.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm glad to meet you here today. Yes, it's been a good Sunday morning.
Welcome to our live show, Singapore Current Affairs Live. Live with me is Dr. Michael Fang, and you guys know myself, Prabu Ramachandran. And let's see, what we are doing today is we are talking about Singapore's current affairs and a list of topics that has happened with regards to the India traveler ban. Initially there was like saying just increase the stay home notice to 21 days, and then there was a flip-flop U-turn, and it's like suddenly there is a ban of all non-resident, basically if they are not Singaporean or not PR, they cannot come back even though they are on work passes. There has been an issue of when it rained very heavily. I think the last weekend or the week before, it is still flooding of that issue. And of course, our big topic is the ministerial cabinet reshuffle right now. Okay, so one of the big topic right now. Let's talk about the COVID-19 issue and the first community spread, and the India issue of how bad it has been. About a few 100,000 cases a day, and in a week a new 1 million over cases in India. Let's talk about that, Michael.
Yes, indeed. Over the last week, we have seen over the news reports what's happening in India, right? As of date, there's at least about 200,000 people, who got infected, and the death rate is like 2,000 plus daily. So it's quite. This is at least the impressorium that we got from what's happening in India. We don't know the exact figures, but it's very bad. Yeah, and people are dying on the streets. Videos have been emerging of people collapsing on the streets without any medical aid. They're running short of oxygen and supplies. And so, yes, our sympathies actually do go out to them. And this collapse of the healthcare system, as they call it, is actually due to the precipitation in cases of the number of number of COVID cases and patients that we have over there. And it's been very bad. It's been very bad. And we're lucky that it does not happen in Singapore. But I may add the word yet, because as long as there's an immigrant influx into Singapore, there's always a risk of exposure, whether via our healthcare providers or via our immigration personnel, or even just an accidental brush in the street. Yes, so that will be a very bad sequelae if we are exposed to the new emergent COVID strains, right? In which there is a doubt whether there is a full protection and resistance provided by the vaccines. We know that this is very serious, that we have to take precautionary COVID measures, and we also need to ensure that the immigration rate isn't too high, so that we don't get exposed to these cases. Yeah. I believe Singaporeans' lives matter, and we need to protect Singaporeans first. And so therefore, these measures, whether you're rich or poor, right, should be instituted for the good of Singaporeans. Yeah, so this is my take on the issue. Yes.
So, I would like to question on this part. When these people eventually left India for Singapore, the tests that they do, they are subjected to positive or negative tests. They do tests for COVID. So the legitimacy of this test comes into question. For years and years, we've been having fake diplomas and fake degrees from India, even fake medical professionals. In India, this is a problem, which is their problem, which is running rampant. So, end of the day, COVID vaccination certs or positive test result certs or negative test result certs are all a piece of paper at the end. You just need a computer, a printer, and a paper to generate one. So, any with regards to India and the level of fakeness that goes on versus Singapore, I don't think in Singapore people resort to this sort of fraudulent activities as much. It isn't a rampant issue. So I'd like to question, like, how much of this, the legitimacy of the testing there, and let's say if the guy has a positive result, he couldn't just go home and create a fake cert and say he's negative, or he has not been vaccinated, he creates a fake vaccination cert. These are the issues which I am concerned and worried about when it comes to the practices and the ethics of Indian nationals. I mean, I'm not saying this from a xenophobic or racist angle or such. I've already clarified I come from an Indian origin myself, and I'm a Singapore Indian. So how is that racist? I know there will always be accusations of xenophobia and racism. And hey, Calvin Cheng even brought up the topic of rednecks. That is the new term that is used to describe Singaporeans with genuine concerns about this issue. And I am pretty disappointed with the government's response with regards to the Indian flights and the travel situation. The government was telling us that the experts deemed that, just increase the stay-home notice by another 7 days to 21 days. There's no need for travel bans, and suddenly there's a flip-flop, travel bans. So this issue is not just this year. Last year, it was on masks. You know, they called for a circuit breaker, and in the first week of circuit breaker, there was still a no mask policy. It was only that in the second week of the circuit breaker, after 1 week, the second week of circuit breaker, there was a mask. And during February and March, they were telling, hey, there's no need for mask. There is only wear a mask if you're feeling unwell. If you're well, do not wear a mask. And how wrong they were. And after they were caught out, Minister Chan Chun Sing came out and said that there's an audio tape of him saying that xia sui things, and he used the term xia sui, and surgical masks would not have been available. I think these are lame duck excuses. I mean, if let's say surgical mask you reserve and you make it a controlled product, or for those in the medical healthcare, for doctors and nurses, they should have had a cloth mask policy. I mean, a reusable cloth mask, or we could have gotten the tailors and producers of masks, right, to cotton cloth that is used to make shirts, or the type of material that is used to make pants or jacket. You could have had 1 layer, 2 layer, or 3 layer, or how many layers you want, as long as it's washable, reusable mask. We could have gone on with that. So his response to that was disappointing, but why am I surprised? Usually their response is very disappointing. They do not take action. They are not proactive. They just wait till situations get that bad. They have a forever wait and see response. It's like, wait, hey, we'll wait and see. Now, hey, we've got to act, and situation is that bad. I mean, I could be exaggerating, but that's how it is. It seems to be. And the India situation, and finally, when there is a lot of uproar online, there is calls for travel ban. I mean, look at it. Other countries, the United Arab Emirates banned travel from India earlier. New Zealand banned travel from India earlier. Australia banned travel from India earlier. And all these places, their leaders are being paid a fraction of what our multi-million dollar salaried ministers are being paid. They keep telling us that their salaries equate to effectiveness and efficiency, but in this case it doesn't seem to be. Why do leaders in countries who are earning lesser than in Singapore, like the UAE, like Australia, like New Zealand, are able to make decisive Hi. Sorry for the technical issue.
We're back.
Yeah, we are back. So why is there, as I was saying, leaders world leaders from the, let's say, the UAE, United Arab Emirates, New Zealand, Australia only earn a fraction of what our Singapore ministers are being paid. So what? And all this while we have fed this narrative that our multi-million dollar salary ministers are the most effective or efficient in the world. Why is there that they are not able to take decisive action when it regards to banning flights from India? Why do they have to have a forever wait and see approach? And this is the issue of this year. Last year it was on masks. They actually ran a close to 2 months campaign last Chinese New Year on February to March, right? Or on the newspapers, there is no need to wear mask. Only wear a mask if you're feeling unwell, just to have a U-turn flip-flop. Now it's happening again, and it seems like a forever joke that is keep on happening. Yeah. So, your thoughts on like, the indecisiveness of the government.
Okay, let's get down to some core basics. The government actually, the way it picks its leadership, right, is basically a lot based on academic qualifications and credentials, right? But actually, the academic qualifications and credentials, right, may not actually lead to straightforward, effective results, because there has to be a correlation with the man on the street, right? People like you, people like me, right? People like Prabu, people like maybe some of my friends I know, like Kevin, yeah. They need to be able to tie in with the situation at the ground level on the street. Yeah, and they're lacking in that, maybe because there is a disconnect, right? A disconnect. It might not necessarily be linked to salary, as long as they can do an effective job, right? And then do a good one, right? The salary can be given some leeway consideration. Yeah, definitely, there's not an issue, but at least to me, yeah, I mean, of course, some people may feel that salary is excessive or what, but more importantly, they should, and above all, do an effective job for Singaporeans, right? Because our lives are at stake here, and it's not any issue that we can sweep under the bus of this one. COVID is a very important issue to us, because there are fake certs coming in from India, and essentially these fake COVID certifications are a well-known problem. The fact that these immigrants are still coming in, or have been coming in for a while, right now they have stopped. Okay, that's good news, yeah. But those that have sneaked by and cause much damage, right, in terms of consumption of healthcare resources, and what, why are we actually having to feed them by allowing them in terms of healthcare resources, and that's bad, because it depletes our own. Yeah, we need to conserve our own healthcare resources, and basically hold back in case of emergency, so that we can treat our own Singaporeans first, right? Because after all, Singapore is about Singaporeans first, right? And yes, we should not have a xenophobic attitude, but right now it is we should have our priorities right in the first place. Yeah. So as far as I think, right, we could open up after this thing is over, but right now we should protect Singaporeans first, and protect Singaporeans' jobs first, right? So that, and livelihoods first, right? So that is the most important thing right now that is actually within our sights and consideration, I believe, for most Singaporeans. Yes. So in regards to indecisiveness, they should have acted earlier, but and instead of waiting for hindsight, they have a lot of intelligence committees on the ground that they can actually use, yeah, which I believe a fairly competent political leader should be able to access. Yeah, that's all I can say. I mean, of course, we all hope for the best, yeah, and try not to blame mistakes, but things could be better. Things could be better. Yes.
I mean, with regards to, I'd like to catch on that part of like blame mistakes. When it happened to anyone else, or maybe even during Mr. Lee Kuan Yew's time, he even gave a very famous speech of like, if things are wrong, we would get them right. You just fire the head of whoever is in charge. But it has evolved into a no blame culture. I mean, we need to have a moderate blame culture to have an accountability, balance, and check. Right now, we are having a own self check, own self culture, a no blame culture, and it's like, hey, see no evil, do no evil, speak no evil, which will leave people to have some sort of a delusional la la land type of environment.
I would agree with Prabu on that point, yeah, because that is a valid point to make, yeah. So while you know we are addressing criticisms and stuff like that, so we also need to take in consideration that there has to be some minor accountability or feedback or response to that at least, so that people's lives are not in danger, people's livelihood can go on, the man on the street actually can take care of his family, right, his jobs and his livelihood, yeah, as well as his health.
So, like, I'm mainly very concerned with regards to the certification. A couple of certifications. One is vaccine certification. One is test certification. Let's say the person is not vaccinated. Test certification you can fake to become negative. The person is not vaccinated, you can create a vaccinated certificate. And I mean, this is something not new. This regards with India, we have been having for years and years fake professional certificate, fake diplomas, fake degrees, and even a story of a fake doctor that was not caught in India, but however he was caught in the US after spending close to 20 years. I mean, you can read up on this guy's case. Fake doctor from India. You just Google up fake doctor from India caught in the US. There has been a case, and this guy was in about 20 over years. He was in Singapore. So is rather questionable, and I mean we need to have some sort of response and moderation, and there must be avenues of criticism that is open but with moderation. I mean, not extreme criticism of like, hey, shut down the borders or build the wall sort of rhetoric, but a very fair and decisive outcome to it. I mean, in Singapore right now, you can see that there's hardly any avenue of voicing out apart from online. I mean, with regards to this pandemic, Hong Lim Park is closed down. If not, normally it would have been Hong Lim Park. But hey, even Hong Lim Park is not safe. Han Hui Hui, who protested at the only avenue in Singapore that you can protest, and she was charged for public nuisance. That is the danger. So imagine if you in future we go out to Hong Lim Park, we make some speeches, and we coincide with some other events, we could be reported for public nuisance, and there is a precedence to that. And speaking of precedence, with regards to Uncle Leong Sze Hian's case, he has made a decision where he would not be appealing his outcome. He's happy that Singaporeans have supported him. But I would like to make a clarification on there is some misconception of what people have been commenting, that he already has the 130,000. What he already has, and the people have contributed the 133,000 original amount. It is the damages that is awarded to the Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. The further 130,000 that is appealing for right now, it is damage. It is not damages. It is costs, legal costs to the Prime Minister's lawyer, Davinder Singh.
Legal costs and disbursements.
Yes, and the expert, the so-called expert that came in to give testimony of about, Leong was about one person out of 9,000 over shares, and the so-called expert cost and stuff. So I would like to make an appeal to all those who are watching, and hey, first a couple of appeals. All those who are watching right now, because this is live, do share the link of this live in your WhatsApp, in your Telegram, in your Facebook, so that people actually can watch this. And if in case you missed out, it is still would be available. And I would also like to make an appeal to donate to Leong, because right now I think he has hit about close to $40,000 of the 133,000. He would require another close to 80 to 85 to 90,000 over dollars.
Actually, I would like to point out that we Yeah. What we would like to do essentially, right? That's good, Prabu. Right. What we would like to do essentially is to appeal to people, basically to put on Instagram and Twitter. Yeah, because these are the avenues we have not reached yet, and we would like, instead of you donating directly, reach out to the fellow next to you and donate together. Yeah, so that would be no matter how small the amount, it's okay. It's okay. It's a heartfelt gesture. Yeah, we actually, this fight is not just for Leong, right? This fight is actually on behalf of all Singaporeans, right? Because as I believe, Singaporeans treasure their internet freedom, treasure their internet presence, and the ability to speak out and post safely, with a post. And of course, this sends out a message that we would like this to happen, like, yeah, instead of all the blame falling to one person, right? Was shouldering everything, which in fact the fight is actually for the internet freedom for all of us. Once the precedence and the judgment has been sent, it is established in court, but we hope that this is not the case. So these are the people's wishes.
I mean, I'd also point out on this part, there has when you brought up internet freedom, there is a post or a meme appealing for donation online for Leong to crowdfund this thing, as Leong being the father of internet freedom in Singapore. That is kind of funny. It made my day actually looking at that. And I mean, we would like to that case, right? I respect his decision, having fought this for 2 over years. He just wants to get it over and get on with life. However, this outcome has set a very dangerous appeal, and I mean, you can see from Lim Tian's post, who was representing Leong Sze Hian as a lawyer. Lim Tian has posted out that Leong wants this fight to be someone else in future would bring it up as a correct avenue to fight this precedence which is cast in stone, and he would not continue this. I understand where he is coming from, having fought this for 2 over years, but now it is what it is, and it has set a dangerous precedence. You could get sued based on just sharing on Facebook. Doesn't have to be your content. So I find this ridiculous. I mean, Facebook is one platform. Next one, you want to sue for sharing on Instagram or sharing on Telegram or sharing on any other platform, in fact. So this has been a dangerous precedence cast in stone in existing legal case outcome. I would like to appeal for donations. Even if you donate $1, make sure that you share that I have donated, or hashtag I have donated justice, hashtag justice for Leong, and continue sharing it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram, and any and all available online platforms. Or we would eventually might start up a flyer campaign to hit out
Just for awareness. Yeah, just for awareness.
just for awareness, hit out offline campaign with regards to Leong's issue to raise donations and raise funds for him. And that is how he's still raising funds for his case. So that's that current issue with regards. And let's see, one more, the latest current issue I would like to bring up is a certain nominated MP or ex-NMP, Kelvin Cheng. Kelvin Cheng, with regards to Leong case, the fella has been rather noisy online. With regards to Leong's case, he has brought up the point that, hey, since these issues can be crowd-funded, the damages should be awarded higher. I fiercely disagree on this issue with Kelvin Cheng. What are your thoughts? Write it in the comment section here, and make sure you share it with your friend and write it in the comment section. I will be replying to the comment section right now live. I can see my phone is with me. I will be replying. And Michael, what are your thoughts on ex-nominated MP Kelvin Cheng suggesting that now, since it can be crowd-funded, since damages can be crowd-funded, damages should be awarded, should be higher? What are your thoughts on Kelvin Cheng?
I think Kelvin Cheng definitely has his own views, right, for one, but I think that that is definitely not right in principle. Because if you think about it, right, the people who are donating and crowdfunding are the common man on the street, the common people. These things go beyond politics. And essentially, if they are donating towards a cause that they should have internet freedom and basically the ability to speak up, right, and Kevin Chan is suppressing that, that would be disrespecting the wishes of the people, right? So that would be disrespecting the wishes of the people. I believe his stance. And worse, I think the recent posters of him posting something about allowing Sika Indians in by the back door. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, with regards to the back door, Calvin Cheng is okay. You know, online these Indian nationals will be asking for, hey, how do I get into Singapore, and how do I now that there is this travel ban, Calvin Cheng made suggestion that they should go via Nepal, or go via the USA, or go via Sri Lanka and then come into Singapore. I think this is a very bad suggestion of him to be giving out such loopholes. I mean, it is good that he brought up such loopholes so that the government could look into the loopholes and actually shut down. The way actually how I would have done it is not the country based on destination. I would take that as a factor that they are coming from India and send them back on another flight, not allowing them access past Changi Airport. I would also look at which passport they hold, but apparently that is not how they went about looking at it. They're only looking at the destination where they fly into Singapore from. So Calvin Cheng suggested that they go to Sri Lanka and then come in, because you know that when the UK strain was out, the UK mutant strain was out, people we could not get in people from the UK to fly in. There was a travel ban. People went in through other countries, spent about 14 days there, and then came into Singapore. Yeah, so this is what Calvin Cheng suggested, and I would like to criticize his behavior for suggesting this. But on the hindsight, the government could actually look at this as a potential loophole and cover the loopholes. So kudos to Calvin Cheng for indirectly bringing this out. I would put
Actually,
it.
I would think that went far beyond a suggestion, because for the post that was captured was actually that of an Indian national begging him for help to circumvent our Singapore's travel ban ruling. And this loophole has actually existed for a long time, and it came across, I feel, more like a recommendation, yeah, rather than a suggestion itself. So this goes slightly beyond that, yeah, and maybe, I don't know, to some of you, maybe far beyond that. Yeah, I would think this would be a serious loophole that we need to close. If not, we'll be getting more Sika Indians that are infected with COVID that might actually access this loophole to come in to use our medical system for treatment.
I mean, end of the day, the surge in India would not have happened had people behaved responsibly. There was this Kumbh Mela festival that people were not wearing masks, and they were like, you know, literally walking around in the tens of thousands. They were crowding around. So the Ganges River, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, how do you expect to have such irresponsible behavior and social behavior amidst of a pandemic and expect better results? This is a bit ridiculous. So guys, if you guys are watching, keep on commenting, liking, and sharing this. I would be responding to your comments, and yeah, while Michael is speaking, I'll be responding to your comments. So in case if you see I'm like looking at my phone, I'm actually responding to comments. Make this show interactive. It's not just like a typical show that you would see on the mainstream media. And hey, what do we have? We have a lot to talk about the mainstream media that's upcoming, but right now we still focus on this Calvin Cheng. I am actually very disappointed. It's not just one post. He seems to have a very anti-Singaporean post. He seems to be claiming that Singaporeans have a mindset of bringing us back into the village age, and I mean, I have not seen him speak up for Singaporeans as he himself is a Singaporean. However, I've seen a post. He claims that politicians, even from the ruling party, afraid of losing votes, might not speak up for the foreigners, and as such, he will do it. I find that ridiculous. And who in their right mind actually at one period of time nominated him to be a nominated MP? It was then Parliament, of course, with regards to Parliament, it's always a PAP dominated Parliament. So with regards to not having NMPs like Kelvin Cheng around, the root cause of the problem is do not vote in PAP MPs. They are the ones who make the suggestion of who should the nominated MPs in, and Kelvin Cheng eventually did become a nominated MP. And there's been some suggestion that, Kelvin Cheng is undermining the government's response in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic with the travel bans, and there's been some suggestions of making the police reports with the online screenshot of whatever. I do not know, has there been any police reports made against him? I'm tempted myself to make a police report. I find that his actions, whether or not his intention was to undermine the government, it does undermine not just the government's efforts, but the sacrifices of our frontline workers, the doctors, the nurses, and even sacrifices of Singaporeans who last year spent 2 months under the circuit breaker. And, just staying at home, we could not work, we could not do anything, literally. We have to work from home, and our earning abilities went down for 2 whole months. And going forward, we also are not functioning as a full force of the economy. There is a lot of circuit breaker measures in place. All these sacrifices are being undermined by suggestions such as Kelvin Cheng, and don't mind my anger,
yes,
when I'm speaking.
definitely.
Normally I'm very calm and I'm a very friendly guy, but I'm quite angry with this, what he has been saying.
Yes, definitely. I think our first priority is definitely to protect our precious frontline healthcare workers, including the doctors and medical staff, and basically those in the community looking for the vulnerable and basically disabled. We have to take care of these people, and we have to look after their welfare, and not bring in more COVID infected Sika immigrants or visitors unnecessarily. So with regards to that, I believe Prabu got that one right. And we need to look after our own before we look after people. It all boils down to whether we want a government that essentially is a global elitist globe-trotting government, they call it, or basically it's down to a government back to the basics, right? Back to looking after the people, right? And back to looking after the healthcare needs of the people, and whether it is whether we want Singapore for Singaporeans first, right? Yes, we could have accept new immigrants and so on and so forth, and they will be our brothers in arms, and our brothers that work alongside us for a better future, for a better Singapore.
And now we have spoken about this Kelvin Cheng thing. I would like to bring up the mainstream media, with regards to Leong Sze Hian, Uncle Leong's first successful crowdfunding. Yeah, we are shooting from a timer-based camera, so
it's just a technical difficulty,
yes. Limitation. I put it. The thing just keeps going off, but the show keeps going on. The audio will still be in. So
running.
Anything, just bear with us for that few seconds. I'd like to touch the next on mainstream media. With regards to Roy Ng's successful crowdfunding and Leong Sze Hian's first crowdfunding of 133,000 and Roy Ng's 144,000, silence. There has been no news on the mainstream media. It has only been the alternate online media. And so, your thoughts on that, mainstream media?
Yes, so basically our mainstream media press freedom index has dropped from 158 to 160. For your information, we are comparing the likes of states like North Korea, which is bottom of the bucket list, like 174 or something like that. And it's quite bad that we are close to that. So the fact is,
so out of 180 countries, we were 158, which is in the red zone, not that fantastic. is horrible enough. We have dropped 2 places to 160th position. What that means is, with regards to the press freedom index, we are closer to North Korea or despot countries, or countries which are troubled at war for years and years, as opposed to press freedom of developed, successful, democratic countries like put it Iceland, like Finland, like even the US or the UK, who have got parliamentary democracies.
So it does not really matter if it, if it is actually at the abysmal pit to another abysmal pit. But I mean, we can't really blame them because the press has been under control by the state apparatus for very long, right? Under LKY, when basically that era, where the mainstream media is utterly controlled by them. So now it's just become an official mouthpiece of the incumbent, and the worst part is fewer people are actually subscribing to the mainstream media readership. Yeah, so it is not us that is causing any problems, or any of the common man on the street that's causing any problems, but actually it's the fact that objective and straightforward news are not being reported. Yeah, and people are subscribing less and less to their readership. So it is actually market forces, right? Market forces that simply determine the decline, right, and the downward spiral of the mainstream media. Yeah, it is like fighting against a tide of people, opinions, a tide of people. What so? Yeah, and it doesn't help if you just target people, and it doesn't work that way. It's just the market forces you need to contend with, and the mass of people's opinions. Yeah, so when one falls, another just replaces. Yeah, and it doesn't make any difference. Yeah, so just persecuting Leong alone may not actually solve the issue. It may actually aggravate it. Yeah, because people are sensitive and people can see, right? They say justice is not blind for a reason. It's because the masses actually knows about it. Yeah, and even if you suppress by the mainstream media, it doesn't work because people are switching to alternate news, online news, and you clamp down on things like Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and everything. Then it's like would you get the popular support behind that? And those are the actually mainstream issues, you see. So persecuting a few scapegoats, would cut a dent in what the popular masses think, and what they think is correct, and basically needs to be reported to them, needs to have some news accountability to them, yeah, which is causing the decline in the sales of the mainstream media. It's actually very simple, yeah. That's all I've got to say, yeah.
Hey, I would like to take this time, a very short one, to call a shout out to our fans who are actually watching this. Don't mind if I mention your names. Muhammad Latifi, thank you very much for your comment on inefficient leadership and your agreement with that. And Elvin Baron Xie, I replied to your comment, and Muhammad Latifi, Peter Lim, you're watching as well, so please do share the link so that more people would be watching, your friends, your family members. And Justice Chu, thanks for tuning in. SK Tan, Ray Lo, hey bro, how are you? Elvin Tan, or Tan Elvin, Julie O'Connor, special shout out for you. Gilbert Ang, shout out to you as well. Hazma Ramat, thanks for tuning in. Vera Matthew, thanks to you too for tuning in. And Louis Liu, you would ask, who are the speakers here? Okay, myself, I'm Prabu Ramachandran. You can search me up on Google, on YouTube. I've been publicly speaking for about last 10 years. I've been a critic on issues and stuff. And this is Dr. Michael Fang, a friend and colleague of mine. And
just my humble self, yes. Talking to you as a normal person, face to face.
As a fellow Singaporean, so yeah, I mean, we all belong to the Singaporean club lah. I mean, to take a very laid back, I tell you. Or you have red passport but cannot use right now. We all fall in the same situation. We have got the while our press freedom index is at 160, we have got the first or second passport rank, but presently said that we cannot use. So all of us also have pink IC lah. And personally, the guys serve NS for 2 years, or last time is 2.5 years, and reservist cycle of 10 years or up to age
10
of
years.
40 lah. Yeah, so myself, I've completed my national service and reservist liabilities already. So born and bred Singaporean. So yeah, that's all. And Latifi commented again. Yeah. So I would like to, while we took that time to reach out to our audience on a very personal level, I'd like to go back to the press freedom index. I mean, the media as a whole, you can see the newspapers are not selling. You can pass by like convenience shops, 7-Elevens, the neighborhood markets, and the news vendors. In the past, or maybe I'd say even 10 years ago, Straits Times, the new paper, the Chinese Zhao Baos, One Paos, they would run out. But right now, I would see when I return home at about, let's say, 8, 9 or 10, right? Just when the shops are closing, there are tons of newspaper which is not sold, which is left on the shelves. And this in itself is an indicator, and another indicator is the share price, the SPH share price. So, I mean, normally it's very easy to say that the critics, the activists, the opposition figures are always criticized, but we have got no solution. I have a solution to improve our press freedom index from 160, and the changes I will not bring it to 180 to compete with North Korea. I would actually bring it upwards to compete with maybe the United States or the United Kingdom or Switzerland. Hey, we always look at about Switzerland as the Swiss standard, right? So, or Australia or New Zealand, developed countries with democracy. And I'd like to state out on this point, all right? In democracies, the first, the three pillars of established democracy is the legislature, that is parliament, the executive, that is the elected government that from parliament that is formed, the government, and the third being the judiciary system or judges. The fourth pillar of democracy and freedom is the press and media. So with our press and media being at such a low rank and getting worse, oh my goodness, I think I want to make it my life's work to improve. So how I would go about improving it is opening up the media to private sectors, with deregulation, less control from the government, less bureaucracy, and let the press and journalism be a business model. That way there will be competition and there will be growth in both the online segment for news media as well as the offline segment. That means privately owned newspapers, because across a multiple investment opportunities and multiple from a very macroeconomics angle, right? A special shout out to Leong Wai, PSP's NCMP. He brought up the part that Singapore needs to deregulate, and I mean he comes from a former OCBC investment and security CEO, so he comes from a very financial. I mean I come from finance as well, so I relate with his topic, with his statement of having to deregulate. And I think deregulation in the media segment, in the online news, the videos, and the mainstream newspapers would be a good way to go about it. So if people like, right, people would spend money, people would buy, people would advertise, businesses would advertise, and based on the viewership, there would be a model to go about, and it would lead to more job creations for individual journalists, for photojournalists or video journalists. In this day and age, there would be a job creation for photo and video, apart from the writers and reporters as well.
Yes, this is a very good suggestion. In fact, this will lead to basically revenue generation, right? Which will bring about more income via taxes for the government and stuff like that. Yeah, it's very good. It's a very good idea. Yes, I agree with that.
Job creation. So I think that we have already done it with the telecommunications sector. There is no longer just Singtel or eventually just Singtel M1 StarHub. There is Circle Life, there's TPG, there's My Republic, there's ViewQuest for internet, and there's Red One or something like that for mobile. So right now that segment has been opened. So right now we need the newspaper press segment to be opened up for private privately owned individuals or companies or investment firms to take the lead on journalism, be it our actual written published journalism's dailies that sold like the newspaper model, or online, because I've seen mainstream like Straits Times and a Channel News Asia right now, they're doing similar online Facebook podcasts like what we are doing right now in the middle of the day, which is not their airtime. They're doing this as well. So I think it's time that independent or what I call the indie circuit or privately owned SMEs are able to leverage on this platform on YouTube, on Facebook, or on other online platforms and create their own like website and become news reporting without being persecuted. I mean, while they want to do it as a business model, there might be some fear. I mean, Terry Sue has been doing it for 10 years, and the number of times that the police come knocking on his door, seizing his equipment and things like that, or he has been called up. And you know something, the online citizen is regulated. They have they need to register with the IMDA office. In the past, you did not need to. If you run an online news website or you run a online blog reporting on the current affairs. So that's why I always like to make it clear on our shows and our news. We are not news, we are a news commentary. Like other people break the news, we just comment on the news. So that way I'm very clear that we don't get into trouble or
Yes. So this is mainly an impressorium of the news, so that we can help discuss, analyze, and basically help people make some sense of the news, right? Of course, it's definitely not actual news reporting. We were actually trying to reach out and basically talk to people on their own comfort level. What do they think of the news? What are their impressions, what are their views, what do they make sense in the modern world? Yeah, because these are things that are getting to the common man on the street. We are exposed to so much information. How do we make sense of it all? Yes. So we would like your views and comments as well. Yeah, you can post so that you know what you like to talk about and what was important to you, what's close to your heart. Yes, these are stuff that we like to know.
So I would not just talk about deregulation of this industry. In fact, I want the government on the bureaucracy to be reduced, and even the GLCs, right, where the government is being involved in business or big business, let's put it. I'm a big propagator of the SME, the small and medium enterprises, because statistically SMEs employ the most number, or I think a good 65 to 70% of employment of all Singaporeans is by the small and medium index, small and medium enterprises. So you can go and look this up on small business camera. So normally for that I would be behind the camera and I'll be videoing HDB places of business and the small and medium enterprises, because the whole of last year in the COVID, SMEs have been affected. And I would like to make a point that I normally like to go to coffee shops or local eateries or privately owned stalls, even if it's Western food, to support them rather than supporting global corporates. Like it has been years since I actually ate at a McDonald's or Starbucks. I would go and drink kopi, support the uncle. It's not as much as Starbucks. And I mean, you by doing this, right, you're actually helping people put food on their table to help them operate on a daily. You're not helping some global CEO have another holiday house in another country.
Yeah, so basically me and Prabu, we're actually supporting this, and hope that we'll support the small moms and pops businesses that essentially depend on a majority of Singaporeans to survive. Yeah, these are the actual job creators, the actual main job, supporters of Singaporeans. So we would like that to happen. Yeah, that is my opinion. Yes.
So, with that to do, we've almost hit an hour. Whenever we are enjoying ourselves on live shows, I realize that the time just passes very fast, and you don't have enough time to speak about whatever issues that we want to speak about. I was planning this to be a special 2-hour show, so let's take this up to the next issue I'd like to touch on is infrastructure flooding, it's still happening right now. I mean, even though the former minister tried to brush it off, and thankfully back then there wasn't fake news of POFMA law, or else we could have taken the minister to task for spreading fake news for his comments once in 50 years flooding. We do not know how many 50 years has passed. Literally, whenever it rains heavily, it floods. And I would like to touch on the infrastructure and the spending on solving these issues. And I mean, these floods, right? The last flood was in the 1970s, or a lot of us would not have been around, or in the 1980s, 90s, 2000s, you do not hear of flood. I have a feeling that the flood started when they built the Marina Barrage Dam. They built that as a dam to create an artificial reservoir with regards to the population increase, so that we need more water. Sensibly, when population increase, you need more food, more water, more transport, more infrastructure. So water is a key essential for human beings. You need water. You cannot survive without food for about 3 to 7 days, but without water, I think
3
more
days,
than 3 days you're gone already. Yeah. So they did that to create an artificial reservoir. But what that has happened is, whenever it rains, right, the water doesn't drain fast enough, that there are floods that are happening in low-lying areas. And I would like to hit out on the PUB. Their role, right, does not stop at, hey, there's flood, low-lying areas, I issue flood alert. That's their role does not stop at that. They are supposed to, in the days where it is bright and sunny, the good saying, prepare for rainy days, they're supposed to be doing that. And now we have data of how many of rain came out and across how many hours. So they should factor it upwards and spend and increase and improve the drainage system, the water storage systems, and the water treatment systems, where we can store more water, because this is in line with they want to increase population. So we cannot increase population without these infrastructures in place. That's the point I would like to make. I mean, we've always hit out on transport, because transport is visible. It is whenever there's population increase and transport, because everyone has to go to work, everyone has to travel, you can see this. But water resources is something that is not there until it starts to flood, and you could see that. So with regards to population increase, the water resources, this thing has to be taken care of, is my point that I would like to strongly hit out on. I'm not telling that you don't go and unnecessarily spend on water infrastructure. What I'm saying is, we have to make use of effective spending, because all this while they have been spending, but looks like it still floods whenever it rains. So the spending might be ineffective and inefficient, is a point that I would like to make. I'd like to go on to Michael and ask his views on whenever it rains, it floods. His views on that.
Well, yes, once in 50 years is kind of long, yeah, and we've been seeing that with increasing frequency, the term they like to use is ponding, but when you see a flood, you might know one, yeah, and essentially when cars are being swamped, okay, the economic damage to vehicles, to livelihood disruptions and danger to the public is there, it's present, yeah, and we need to, of course, improve our drainage systems, yeah, that's the first and foremost thing, as well as you want to retain more water, that's fine, yeah, you want to have dams, you want to have reservoirs, but at the same time you need to ensure an adequate drainage system, right? Because over centuries and thousands of years, irrigation and water control has always been a problem, yes, but definitely the small country like Singapore, I believe we could achieve that control more efficiently by the drainage system, yeah, and we can definitely improve on that. So the end results will speak for themselves, whether flooding of such nature could occur. I mean, if I can use that term, right? Because I don't believe the recent incidents should fall in the category of ponding anymore. And if they do, then perhaps I could be corrected. Yeah, that's my opinion. Yeah, but I'm sure as for the far majority of you will agree yeah, the such incidences, if you call it, actually has created widespread damage, right, to either property or to and may cause potential threats to people's lives. So I believe this one needs to be addressed soon, especially with the climate changes that are coming. Flash floods are actually quite common, and we need to prepare for them. So yes, for the climate change agenda, our people need to do a lot more. Yes, all right.
I mean, end of the day, let's get real, alright? If it's a flood, you call it a flood. Do not try to whitewash it and call it a ponding or come out with new terminologies for that. It is just there to not convince but confuse the general public. So it's like, hey, there's no flood. It doesn't flood, but this ponding is happening. Yeah, it sounds ridiculous. No wonder our press, right, is that bad, because you're coming up on certain issues. There's a lot of upplaying on things like, let's say, racism, on xenophobia. When there's genuine criticism on things that matter, there's upplaying. Then there's things like flooding. They're trying to downplay it. So just say things as they are, call a spade, and try not to package things too much lah. Either way, negative or positive. That's how I would feel about things. And I think going forward, right, with regards to the climate, I'd also like to make a point of contention, which is, I'm not a green climatist or leftist climatist. It's like telling Greta Thunberg and the global online following, what she does is like go out there and say, how dare you? No, I'm not. I'm a very sensible person with regards to climate. Based on data now, you see that flooding is happening and stuff. So what we should do about it is, we should be environmental, we should be green, but that's when population kicks in as well. The government wants to have a plan of population increase, all right? With a higher population, there will be more demand for transport, for electricity, for food and water. And what this would do is, it would contribute to the carbon dioxide or the emissions, because there is more people, you need more MRTs, more buses, more vehicles. So it would actually increase the emissions. So you cannot have, on one hand, you want to have a green, a more cleaner, greener environment, and hey, for more people, they would eventually have to cut down forests and make way, make more space as well, like the Clementi Dover forest, which I'm very against clearing. I mean, first it was Bukit Brown for the cemetery and the forested areas for to make way for the Circle Line and stuff. So you're clearing natural greenery or forested areas, and you cannot say that, hey, you clear about 100 trees, and just because there is no publicity on that, then you publicize it and say, we are planting one tree, and you say, hey, we are not forested, but we are a garden city. This has been going on for a long time. While I am not criticizing or condemning the government for planting more trees, I would in fact encourage that. But on the net, I always like to, after hanging around with Uncle Leong, I like to talk about the net cash flow or net effects. The minusing, cutting down of 100 trees or 10 trees, we do not have the data, but you go and publicize and you plant one tree, net you're still losing the number of trees. That's what
the fact is that if we're increasing our local population, and as well as cutting down trees, we're actually increasing our carbon footprint. Our carbon footprint. So and it's very bad. We try to preserve whatever greenery we have, because it's a legacy that we have of the Lee Kuan Yew's era. And essentially that's why we are called a garden city lah. It brings in revenue in terms of tourism, right? Because people want to see how a modern city develops with greenery. That was the message that was sent across in the past. And I believe that we should be more pro-green, in essence. Do what is necessary, yes. In climate changes and climate defense-wise, do what is necessary, so that we can actually have a future for our future generations, and our children.
So with that, I'd like to mention that I would like to have sensible um, outcomes from the government, and not like activists on either side of the fence or bridge shouting out like Greta Thunberg, how dare you, and expecting changes. And with that said, Dr. Michael has wrote a book here called Love Singapore. This is called Love Singapore Vision 2020. You can try to reach out to him. His Facebook is Michael Fang, spelled as Michael space Fang. You can reach out to him on how to get the books. And why the book came into mind is with regards to rising up, once again, climate change and rising sea levels. His idea of how to tackle this, there's a chapter on the book. I will not be touching too much of that. If everything tell already, then don't read the book already lah. Yeah. So if you want more info, it's in the book. Get the book and reach out to him. A special shout out, and reach out to him, and he would give you a signed copy of a book, a personal signature on it. And
definitely, yes.
With that said, we move on to the big topic, the ministerial cabinet reshuffle. So, what do you think of the reshuffle?
I think essentially it's actually the same people again playing musical chairs, to sum it up, yeah. And basically the hopes of getting a competent leader out on top, yes. What I think is that this is an internal political thing within the incumbent, and yeah, we get assignment to strange roles, yeah. Like for example, we have the education minister, yeah, the new one, yes. I think Mr. Chan Chun Sing, yeah, his role has become that of the education minister. And Lawrence Wong is now tasked with basically balancing the budget, yeah. And again, it's just a role of it's just a change of musical chairs, and not much of a change in effective policy. So that is just my view of it. So it's kind of nothing too exciting, yeah. Whether the intentions to step down or not becomes interesting, because now, as we can see, the man tasked with balancing the budget is Lawrence Wong, and we have education minister, right? So I think they're just playing musical chairs. There's no effective change.
With regards to Chan Chun Sing, right? There's been a lot of online memes. It's said that his name is the acronyms to his name is CCS, Chan Chun Sing, and there's online memes that the new education outline is going to be, where does cotton come from? Cotton comes from sheep, CCS. That, I mean, jokes aside, these are online memes, and I feel bad for that guy, for that one slip up he's being, but hey, he has got to be careful with what he says, and he has been caught with foot and mouth syndrome. This is not once. He has been a couple of audio tapes that has been leaked on him that doesn't look favorable at all. There was one, he was talking about the mask to business leaders. Another one where he was talking about the crisis saving the PAP in elections. I mean, I find that he should actually think before he actually says things, because all this could go on record and he could get into he could find himself in trouble for saying that. I would like to actually, there's one person that actually comes to me who could be competent, but it's sad to see that this person is new to politics in the PAP, but he's not given a limelight. And unlike a lot of people, to have a very balanced view, like, you cannot say that I go and every time everybody in the PAP I criticize and condemn. Okay, so I'm fair enough. A guy who doesn't come from a scholar background, or doesn't come from a government bureaucrat background, a guy who doesn't come from the army general background, but he's currently appointed as a minister. You all keep guessing lah who. I will try to I would eventually reveal it. this guy did a proper job from the private sector, but it's said that he's not been given much depth or limelight. Dr. Tan Si Leng, he was a CEO all along in the private medical practice, and I could see compared to a lot of other the generals, the career bureaucrats and stuff, this guy would have some sort of core competency, and he's being tasked to take over Josephine Teo in the manpower ministry. I hope that he comes up with policies that safeguard Singaporean jobs and reverse the Singaporean unemployment. So he's the only one person that I have not seen anything for, so I've got nothing to say against him, and I have my hopes for this one guy, but the rest of them, it's like the same old people being shuffled again, doing the same old things, and we are expecting different results. Same people doing same things, and we are expecting different results.
Actually, this can't be totally blamed, because there's still the party whip and the party line policies that they have to follow, right? That is, of course, determined by the party stance. However, I mean, I personally, that's why I differ a bit. I mean, I myself, I personally find that Chan Chun Sing is a nice guy. Yeah, he's probably more approachable and more genuine than some of the people hiding behind official lines. So well, it's just a personal take, yeah. So as you can see, we have a little bit of a diversion of views, but that's okay, you know. Everybody has their own views, and we live. I agree with him, Dr. Tan with Dr. Teo, is it?
Dr. Tan Si Leng, Marine Parade.
Yes. I think that
he is a first-time parliamentarian, just got elected in, and he is a CEO of a group of private hospitals and private clinics.
Well, okay,
so
I suppose that would be a fair assessment as well. Yeah, but of course, I mean, but as I said, I mean, I would have thought that people get to choose their own governments, get to choose their own incumbents, and get to choose their own people, rather than the process in which the thing is handed down. Yeah, but who am I to say anything about that? Yeah, so it's up to the people to normally decide or say. Yeah.
I also feel on this point with regards to cabinet changes, right? We are not following a first world Canadian style of a cabinet where people with actual background, relevance and experience is taking on that ministry. Like you see, Chan Chun Sing, never a teacher, never an educator. He's in charge of Ministry of Education. This guy is a former army general. Why isn't he in charge of defense? And defense is a doctor, Ng Eng Hen. This guy should have been the Minister of Health. There is a mismatch of expertise. Like if you went to research online on Google, Justin Trudeau's Canadian government is the Minister of Education is a former teacher and a principal. The Minister for Health is a doctor. The Minister for Law is a former lawyer and a very successful one at that. And the Minister for Trade and Industry is a former businessman. It is with their own expertise. So this part needs to be seriously fixed. Like they are putting around who is that? A couple of our ministers, they are Chan Chun Sing, Lawrence Wong, and all. They are not playing to their strengths. And I mean, even Heng Swee Keat was finance minister and deputy prime minister, but at least he had like some financial experience in his working background. But if you look at a Josephine Teo from Manpower, she is right now. She's taking on a heavy responsibility, Minister for Communication and Information. From MOM, she moves there. She's still second minister for Home Affairs, and she's the minister in charge for Smart Nation with technology and stuff going forward. So going forward, she's seen as a futurist minister. I do not know how, and also a minister in charge for cyber security. Like because imagine these roles, right? 3 ministers' roles. She's taking over in a single person. She's taking over from Ishwaran and Vivian Balakrishnan, as well as holding on to her role and taking on a new ministry. So this heavy responsibility on her part. So this is what I'm observing. And hey, it was I do not have I wouldn't have high hopes on her given when she was in manpower ministry, Singaporeans had the highest quantum number of unemployment from independence till present. We have never had, it's easy to tell based on the total population, because the total population is includes PRs, includes pass holders who are foreigners. But based on the quantum number of Singaporeans, since independence to present, we have never had 80 to 100,000 people who are unemployed in a country where we do not have unemployment benefits or social security nets to take care of the people on a short-term basis and get them on their feet. We don't have that. So employment is everything. The people have to fend for themselves, and the situation of underemployment is also rather questionable. It's because Ministry of Manpower classifies a person who has worked 1 hour in 1 week as employed. So we do not know how many people of this employed terminology as underemployed. There is no breakdown on figures.
Yes, and the worst one is because the underemployment criteria is so low that you just work 1 hour a week to be considered to be employed, right? In essence, it avoids the very concept of employment itself. Yeah. So that is what I feel about it. Yeah, it's my opinion, and so basically I feel the definition is really dragging it to the extreme until a person just working 1 hour a week. 1 hour a week, is it?
Yeah.
Will be
1
considered
hour
employed,
in 1 week, you're considered employed.
which means that you contribute to the employment statistics, whereas the situation as a common man will understand it, it's actually much more severe. If you agree with me. Yeah.
So this conversation, right, we can agree to disagree, is having a robust discussion, and hey, we are advocating for people to have differing views and opinions. We would not sue you for your views and opinions, and if you keep suing people, let's put it this way, you will antagonize people. You're using the legal system, and people will be afraid to express their opinions and ideas and views, even if they are good ideas. Like, for example, let's say, Michael, you disagree with me on certain points. It's like, hey, this is not factual. This is, I want to report you to POFMA office. That doesn't work. Hey, I want to sue you. What you say is not factual. It's defamatory. It's ridiculous. Seriously, it's my point
That might have worked 3 centuries or 4 centuries ago, but today I think we're in Singapore. Even if you want to stifle opinion, sometimes it becomes very hard, even if you have control of the mainstream media. People are turning to alternate news, alternate websites, and there's a trend that is for anyone really a bit tough to stop. Yeah,
And
especially online news.
The saying goes, the tide of the wave, right? You want to ride the wave, you don't want to fight the wave. If you happen to fight the wave and you be on the wrong side of it, you're going to get washed away, as the conventional wisdom goes. And hey, I would like to take this chance to see if any of y'all have any questions that y'all want to raise. So we would be glad to answer. I can see there's been quite a bit of reach and quite a bit of viewership that is viewing this live. So any questions you have, take it. Do answer. Ask for them right now, and I would answer it either via the talk show or via the comment section. That's why you see me. Actually, I am not busy on my phone. I'm actually answering and replying to. Okay. Mohammad Latifi mentioned, hey guys, is our post safe? Can I be indicted under POFMA or whatever else? I might as well keep my mouth shut. Just watch your post. Hey, you can express an opinion, and I believe if it is if you gain reasonable traction, the POFMA office will ask you to put up a correction notice. But I have not seen anyone actually pay a fine or go to jail for POFMA yet lah. So literally, and I think that would be outrage lah if that were to really happen, given that our press freedom index has already dropped, and I have not seen anyone who are sued apart from Leong Sze Hian. I mean, the chance of that happening is like striking 4D, you know, one person out of 9,000 people, because you know 4D, there's 9,999 numbers plus 0000 is 10,000 lah, let's put it that way, and in order to strike, must strike 4D lah. So Leong Sze Hian, in Leong Sze Hian's case, that was the statistics of probability of happening. So I would answer Latifi's question of being
In addition, I just like to add that you can actually put in my honest opinion or in my opinion, right? So when you do that, it's just an opinion, right? And basically, I don't think you'll be judged for posting an independent opinion that is of yourself, right? And you're not posting as actual independent fact reporting. Yes, is it not?
Well, with regards to Facebook and online media, as you put it, right, it's casual media. They got to understand that it is not a news reporting site or so. Even though like news, we live in the age of information. We don't live in like the messenger age, you know, where you send pigeons, or I mean, yeah, we do send pigeons like Twitter lah. That's close enough, but we don't actually send pigeon or owl to deliver messages. And that was Latifi's question. Goodwin Johnny, thanks for tuning in. Goodwin Ang and Johnny Ang. To Robert, thanks for tuning in. Chun K Wong as well, and David Villa, Tani Orwen as well. Yeah, I'd like to take this time to shout out to you guys, and because I was asking some questions. So with the ministerial shifts, right, or I'll put it the musical chairs, I do not expect much, because the only one who actually has my attention is who could do anything meaningful, but given that he is new and given that there is not much focus on him, is, as I mentioned, is Dr. Tan See Leng. The rest of them are tested. I do not know how much proven, and I do not know how much effective and efficient results that they could deliver with regards to the ministry. Is the same old people doing same old things and expecting different results. I think they would be in trouble if they continue doing that. But end of the day, the people have to vote for more accountabilities, balances and checks, so that these accountabilities, balance and checks carries through to Parliament constantly, consistently across 5 years, and it's not just once in 5 years. Like during the election time, they come out, or just before the election, they are like very accountable, very balanced, and very checked. But after the elections, you go about it and be like, hey, I've got a majority, I want to increase the GST. Hey, we got a majority, let's increase the taxes and stuff. Like, yeah, we need to have more dynamic, robust Parliament in place. And literally in Parliament, right, in the PAP, the one that has caught my attention is this Dr. Tan See Leng. In the opposition, I mean, right now we've got a leader of the opposition, first time in our independence, but the only one that has actually caught my attention is Mr. Leong Man Wai, NCMP. His posts are very much in line with mine of deregulation on a immigration as well, more controlled approach. But I mean, he is very balanced, but it's quite scary to see that people are driving like they are trying to equate him with xenophobia and racism, and
How does that even work out?
Yeah, I mean, we have seen this happening in developed democracies when the robust ideas does not withstand discussions or conversations, right? There is an element that they throw in, a spanner in the works, or they throw in of accusing you of being a racist, to shut down conversation, accusing people of being a xenophobe, a homophobe, a Islamophobe. Literally, you just throw in a phobia or behind any word, and voila, you got a new accusation to throw around.
So
this is what
this
is
is,
happening, and I'm afraid that this could be happening in Singapore as well. I mean, you see the PAP supporters, you see people like Calvin Cheng that is going around and slamming people just for having a differing view, and a former CNA reporter, Indian guy, S. Ramesh Ramamirtham. So he's been going around people's Facebook. This guy is quite odd and funny, since he left the media. He's been going around Leong Sze Hian's Facebook, Goh Ming Seng's Facebook, people who he doesn't agree with. What is he even doing, following them and going and trolling there and making, very offensive statements, very directly
Definitely
offensive
to
statements.
shut down robust discussions is basically to impede the progress of such ideas and basically bring about betterment of society lah. So there is a catch-22 here, and it's very disturbing to hear about this. Yes. So these are probably media tools. Yeah, media tools designed to throw people off balance. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. And that explains how bad our media is functioning. 160th out of 180, and there's Southeast Asia, the only one that is worse than us is Vietnam. And you see, we are closer to, in the scale of the number one, being Nordic countries, Iceland, Finland, all the way to North Korea. I would expect Singapore to somewhere be in the 90s, somewhere in the middle. But to be at 160, closer to North Korea than than the Nordic countries, developed democracies, is very scary. And I've already given my suggestion on that. And I have been following Terry Sue's live chats on every Wednesday afternoon with Uncle Leong, the one that Uncle Leong and Terry Sue does the live show on the Online Citizen. They have been talking about CPF, HDB, public healthcare, public housing, and stuff. One point that has actually caught my mind on this was how to solve, not just criticism. Uncle Leong came up with a point on how to solve the current HDB issue. As controversial as it is, statistically, this is a good approach. Not allowing PRs to buy resale flats is a good idea, so that when you bring the demand down, if the PR becomes a new citizen and he wants to buy a resale or a new HDB flat, by all means, all right? But public housing is should be for citizens, is my take. So these numbers of PR do not inflate the demand for HDB flats, causing the price of resale flats in the open market to go up. And as such, using the resale flat as a peg, the new flats price HDB brings them up as well. So it's forever going up. So public housing will forever keep rising, and as such, people would not use the cash portion of their salaries because they need cash to spend in an ever costly environment that we live in, to pay like electricity, to pay for mobile internet services and out-of-pocket expenses and like your food, water and stuff. At the same time, your CPF would not be drained out paying for the public housing, and you have more for retirement. And this caught my attention on CPF, social benefits and taxes. I did a calculation based on their chat that Roy Ngeng was speaking to Uncle Leong and Terry Sue live on the Online Citizen. This narrative came to my mind. We are paying, if you factor in your total salary as 100%, your take-home salary as 80%, and 20% of your contribution towards CPF, and the employer, remember your boss, right? If your boss pays you $1,000, the cost to him is not $1,000. The cost to him is $1,070, $170 additional. So it's 1170 because there's a 17% employer CPF. So if you take in the employer CPF, the employee CPF, the total as a factor of 1.17, whatever that goes into the CPF is about a good 31 to 32%, okay, that goes into the CPF, and you cannot use it. It's not cash, so you cannot spend. It's locked away. It is not a tax. In other countries, you can say that the tax is high and stuff. CPF is a savings plan or a retirement fund that is being put away, but 30% is being locked away. So that takes away like the spending power or social mobility of people partially. On top of that, there is this narrative or rhetoric that is being sold to us that Singapore, we pay the lowest taxes in the world. We pay the lowest income tax, but the taxes are hidden here and there, like the consumption tax. You open the tap to drink water, there's water conservancy, water consumption tax. You're paying electricity, like use electricity, you charge your phone, to charge your mobile internet devices requires electricity. There is consumption and conservation taxes on that. On top of that, there's the GST. This point, GST has become a real contention and a thorn, seriously. It's become a real because they told us at 3% and then 5 and then 7, and then it's like keep on increasing. And if you see that with regards to our reserves, I mean, it is no longer a secret. It's been computed. We have 1.48 trillion. It's a T, not billion, a T. 1.48 trillion dollars at 5%. Let's say a 5% return, right? A fund manager, a very low conservative average return of 5% you generate. It's about 70 to 80 billion dollars, which is thereabout of our operating expenses of the government on a yearly basis. On top of that, there's the tax that they collect from income tax, from GST. I do not see any rationale that they have to raise the GST. So our taxes, I would say, are not low. You have to see the rich. For the rich, maybe it is low. They do not pay estate taxes on property that they inherit. They have done away with that. They do not pay capital gain taxes. So for the rich, it is low. But when the rich are getting, the ultra high net worth are getting discounts on taxes, this falls on the everyday ordinary, the middle class and the poor to make up for the taxes. So I would say that in Singapore, the taxes are not low. The income tax might be low. However, you're paying consumption tax. So whatever you spend, imagine 7% goes away. And if you add up all this, your net cash flow of what there is left for you to spend is very sad. Like whatever you earn, 30% goes to your CPF, which is like, and then whatever, so to your housing, your healthcare, all the way is locked aside. Then you got to spend on like HDB. You got to pay property taxes on your HDB, and that is another issue. I mean, HDB, you do not own it, right? HDB, the lease, the contract says it's a lease, and you're charging people property taxes on the HDB just to say at end of 99 years lease that the government takes it back. That part has got to be seriously fixed. It's ridiculous. So I would like to hit out the point that we do not pay low taxes, that we are actually, the taxes are hidden, and our CPF is being locked away, so our net cash flow, what we have to spend, is actually very limited.
So anyway, more the story is that the one paying is you, yeah? So you get to decide, right, how much you really want to pay, right? And if you have a say in, who gets into parliament, yeah? So you do have the choice, right? How much you really want to pay for your taxes and so on and so forth. And the next thing is, in addition to the taxes and the CPF, this overall restricts our social mobility. And in a highly competitive economy, where we need as much resources as we can get to fight with comparable economies like Hong Kong, for example, yeah, and the USA. Oh yeah, and speaking of the USA, I heard there's some news they're going to try to implement some form of a uniform global taxation, right? Which has very big implications for what is going to happen in Singapore. Because we are offering on our end low tax rates, right? Extremely low tax rates. And if you have a reversal of that decision with the U.S. Decision to implement uniform global tax rates, right? This would basically remove the status as a tax haven, and therefore we do need to change our line of thinking and reconsider an alternate economic strategy, yeah, in bringing investments.
Well, all I would like to say is we have to pay the rich, the multinationals, the global corporations have got to pay fair taxes. I'm not a socialist, that in fact, I am a capitalist. I support the small and medium enterprises. It's capitalism. But however, I do not support the other end of the spectrum is global corporatism, where the big companies, the global corporates and multinationals are not taxed enough, and the burden of taxes is being shifted to ordinary, decent, honest, hard-working, average people. It is backbreaking. We have been having these sort of policies for the longest time, and this has got to change. And I'd like to actually touch the point, the moral of the story you brought up, that you are the one spending. That is true. While we are spending, we are not getting back adequately. I mean, you put it this way, in other countries, they pay towards health tax or some sort similar to the CPF. They pay towards like a MediSave, they pay towards like a retirement funds and all. But the out-of-pocket expenses for healthcare is actually either subsidized more or it is free, literally universal healthcare. And I'm not talking about very advanced unnecessary procedures. The basic healthcare procedures or essential healthcare procedures are actually subsidized. But for what we are paying, there is this feeling that we are not getting back enough, because on a net cash flow, Singapore has become the across rich or even poor countries, Singapore has possibly become the only country where, from a net cash flow, the government does not spend on housing or public housing, on healthcare, public healthcare, or on pensions such as CPF. In fact, from a net cash flow, the government receives more money from the citizens than spending it back on the citizens from a net cash flow perspective, and this leads to a lot of the issues that we are currently seeing. Michael.
What I feel is that right now, okay, we should still attract the global corporations to come in, yes, because they do bring value in their net investments, but not as a total sacrifice or end game kind of thing. And practically speaking, with the US trying to implement these changes, this will be a trend that will be going around the world, that low, extremely low or zero tax havens will be zero tax or tax-free havens might become a thing of a past. So while I still agree that we need to hold the interests of these global corporates with maybe a low tax rate, and more importantly with added incentives, right, countered with added balance incentives that will actually bring them on board, right, that we can offer them, right, like probably a very favorable environment, yes, for them to work here, and basically that will secure our edge in this day and age, against other economies, yeah. Because if the tax rate is going to be the same anyway, yeah, you can't offer a tax-free haven anymore, can you? So our thinking has to change, and we can counterbalance it with good and new initiatives that we can do to bring them in.
Well, with regards to global multinational companies, right, I would like to actually not shut doors on them. Actually, I want more multinational companies, the internet, people from Silicon Valley to come in. But the caveat I want to have is they must hire Singaporeans. They must provide employment to Singaporeans, and only when the employment numbers are where Singaporeans are employed and even overemployed, that means they are being asked to do OT. Nowadays, a lot of places there is no overtime pay, or even overtime pay, right? It's come down to allowance, and it's not 1.5 or 2 times overtime. So unless a Singaporean is like in demand and is doing overtime pay and the economy is growing in such a scale, then to allow foreign workers and foreign labor in to complement the core Singaporean workforce and not for the foreigners to displace Singaporeans. So on this front, right, I would say that the opinions of Kelvin Cheng has got it wrong. He was talking about if the government makes the foreigners a sacrificial lamb during pandemic, the foreigners would not come here to work. But let's get real, all right? People, if you look at currency exchange rate, we have the strongest currency in Southeast Asia, and in fact, we have a stronger currency than India or China. People from there want to come here. So things like ASEAN scholarship, things like SECA, has got to be calibrated in that way, a very sensible, pragmatic, logical approach of currency exchange rate being factored in, that people from there want to come here to work, and people from here, Singapore, you would not want to go there to work, even though you can earn and live there very well. When you come back home, you are hit by currency exchange rate.
Foreigners will go where the money is. We need to protect our local Singaporean interests first.
Yeah, and I would like to touch on this point where the 4G PAP leaders are not able to solve problems. I mean, number one, your HDB flats will become zero value at the end of 99 years lease. Number two, where are the jobs for our next generation is the next question that they have to solve. Number three, 70% of our senior citizens will be drawing less than $350 per month from CPF when what you need to survive is around 1,300. This is a big disparity. It's about you're surviving with a deficit of 75% based on 100% of the requirement of a bare minimum of $1,300 to survive per month. 350 only you have per month, and how to survive. So whether it is Lawrence Wong, Ong Ye Kung, or Chan Chun Sing become the PM, do you think your lives will improve? That is the question. The question is not who is the next PM. Do you think your lives will improve? That is the narrative right now. That is the question we should be asking. But I think all this is being, not being looked at. Once again, I'm a person who likes to focus on optics, perception, and perspectives, and where the questions that matter most to ask that and to hit out on that. And our mainstream media is diverting the narrative and question to elsewhere.
So they always say that the opposition have no solutions. Do you think that's true? Because apparently we are.
Sorry about that.
So, okay, sorry about that, yeah. So, okay, they always say that opposition have no solutions. Is that true? I don't think so, because apparently as per our discussions, you can see that there are solutions forthcoming, either from within yourselves or from our mouths, okay? So, it is very obvious that they are doing this basically as a distractor point, right? To throw people off the path, all right? So, that is all I have to say.
Well, actually, with regards to the opposition, there is suggestions and there is ideas and perspective, but it's not being covered by the mainstream media. It's not being aired, and it is not being televised in a live debate. Or in the UK they have this, the BBC does this called Question Time. No holds barred. People are like on a live studio asking their ministers questions. We should have such a question time, which is the question it is coming from the member of public rather than coming from a resident committee that is already pre-planned, and you ask your you see, out of 100 questions they choose what is the question, they choose the perspective, the optics, and the narrative, but not the majority of the question. In other words, you ask question, I'll answer you what I can. Your other questions are all I don't think is important, and it's just being swept away. That is how it is right now, the situation. So with that said, I would like to ask people to actually have critical thinking. Do not just agree with either Dr. Michael or myself. Ask yourself, who, what, where, when, why, and how. And similarly, whenever you see newspaper articles in the newspaper, the online media, the mainstream media like Channel News Asia, Straits Times, Today Online, do not just believe the headlines or the story that people publish. Just ask the question again: who, what, where, when, why, and how. And for anything else, do research. There is who is your best friend in today's day and age. Google is your best friend. Anything you want, just go and Google. All the information is available there. And that's how both of us found, like, I mean, with regards to our mainstream media, we get very limited views, optics, perception, and perspectives from there. So that's when you Google, right, you see
Differing perspectives.
yes, from different perspectives from global media, international media, the CNN, the BBC, and even Indian news. In fact, I got a lot of the Indian news of how bad the COVID outbreak in India got. On worldometers is the statistics, but of course Indian news like the Delhi Live and the Chennai and Bombay newses are on the daily news, the afternoon news or the evening news comes up with this. But strangely, there's been silence on this from our mainstream media, and that is quite scary.
So as Prabu has pointed out, okay, the important point is, the takeaway point is why news is important to us. Okay, if you were to say like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, right, it may not be so important because we are living in the age of energy. But this is right now, we are in 2020, we are living in the age of information. Information is power. Information is life. Information is how we tell when we get our next jobs, our next rice bowl, when our next meal is coming in. Information is how we protect our health, like in COVID situations, and information is how we basically deploy our whole lives. So it's not control and access to, let's say, or rather access to general information important to you. Yes, it is definitely so, right? Whether it is in politics, in business, in science, right? We need to have that unfettered access so that people can make the right decisions in this competitive world. The thing controlling us basically that determines how far Singaporeans can go in life is actually information, and information is controlled by the media.
So that's where I'm coming to the point that our press freedom index is at 160. Our there's another index you all want to read and research on Google, which is the democracy index. We are falling not far behind. We are at like out of 10 being the best, we are at about 5 to 6, which is quite scary, which is like a hybrid authoritarian regime rather than a flawed democracy or a democracy. So I have suggestions on how to improve. I've already given my suggestions on the media, how to improve the press freedom index. With regards to the democracy index, my biggest suggestion would be we need to have referendums. With regards to, if we have referendum and direct democracy where one person get one vote on issues to vote directly, the direct democracy, our democracy index would improve on the global scale. So this is my suggestion. This is what we need to have. I would like to make it my life's work to get Singapore improved on like the democracy index and the press freedom index, and I hope more Singaporeans would actually go forward and not take things as they are. I would in fact welcome people to challenge myself or Dr. Michael on our views. Just ask us who, what, where, when, why, and how, and there must be robust discussions, debates, and very civil arguments. But in Singapore, it's like we've come to a situation that we don't ask questions, we don't ask enough questions, or when we do ask questions, we ask not the questions which actually matter, or heavy, hard-hitting questions. We ask questions that people can answer, and we easily let it slip lah. Let's put it that way. So that's why whenever you see newspaper reports, you see press reports, you see news videos or live reports, just ask yourself who, what, where, when, why, and how, and end of the day, how does it benefit you, the person, the end user, the individual, the citizen? What is in it for us? We need to ask these questions and have a more robust society where people, the participation rate of citizens, or what we call active citizenry, is there without having the fear of being sued, without having the fear of being POFMAD, and we need to just the element of fear needs to be thrown into the dustbins of history going forward. We need to actually move forward, and we cannot have yesterday's men and women trying to fight today's issues and yet leading us into the future. It's very scary having yesterday's men fighting today's issue, but while at the same time leading us into the future. We will have the scenario of the blind leading the blind, which is very, very scary, and you do not want to blindly follow the lead of a blind person. So I'll tell you one thing: you like to follow the lead of industry leaders, but not the government as per se. Yeah, Michael, sorry.
Well, nothing much further to add, but it's interesting to hear. I mean, it would be interesting to hear your views and basically how we can contribute forward to a better Singapore. Yeah. So as much as we're having the live talk show here, we're also welcoming suggestions by people who are watching the live talk show. Yeah? We want to engage you as well as hear your views. Yeah, that would be great.
And I mean, I have got people who come up to me and say, hey, you need to be grateful for the government. You need to be... So I'd like to ask the question, do you praise the ATM machine for it to work or not? When you want to deposit money or when you want to withdraw money, the ATM machine is there, it works, right? Do you praise the ATM machine for working? And on another thing I'd like to ask is... technically, I am, compared to a lot of my peers, I was born in 1988, and I went to apply for my diploma in about the year 2005, 2006 thereabout, and my degree in the early 2010s. So I did not actually follow what the government or the Ministry of Education was doing. That is one of the reasons that I am a bit better off than my peers is so that you cannot just say that I live in an environment that I need to be thankful for the government, I got enough to eat, and I'm well-to-do. I'm in fact well-to-do or better than the average person in my life and in my careers, because certain points I did not listen to the government. Like for example, after my O-levels in 2004, 2005 thereabout, the government was keep on asking us was making a big drive in the polytechnics to take up engineering, all sorts of different engineering, from mechanical, electrical, civil, electronic engineering, any and every form of engineering. But what has happened is, when the Ministry of Education makes a big drive, the polytechnics and the government makes a big drive, so okay, the people are like, that's the future of engineering. So everyone in my peers, in my batch and that group in about 2005, 2006 went into poly, right? They took up engineering. So what has happened is, after they come out 3 years later, just before NS, they went for NS and then come out, and all this, the guys or the ladies also took up engineering. The jobs of engineering was given away to the S pass holders and the EP pass holders and the regional engineers from Malaysia, Indonesia, and Myanmar, and the Southeast Asian countries. So that is the S passes. So it has gone that way. And then when after our diploma, right, let's say not a lot of us in that time, after the diploma come out to work, want to do degree, the big push on degree was, hey, going forward, IT, information technology was a big thing. So you should study IT programming and database, software-based topics and subjects for your degree. So that being said, a lot of my friends who have got engineering diploma went on to take IT or IT engineering and that field. So we all know in history what has happened is, all those jobs went to the Indian nationals. There was Seka and all in like year from the 2010s to 2015s. But this is the point. The government did not push banking and finance. They did not push, despite being a financial hub, they did not push banking and finance. They did not push accounting. They did not push economics. They did not push statistical base. And I was lucky enough, I went to study business for my diploma, and I took up banking and finance for my degree. So in that sense, I was safe because I did not follow the government, or just because everyone else is doing, and the government sell that narrative that is going forward, that is the way, or going forward, that is the economy, and that's where jobs are. And similarly, they sold the narrative of opening up MBS and RWS, that the jobs would open up to Singaporeans. But at the end of the day, if you go in MBS and RWS, where have the jobs gone to? You see the people dealing in the casino floor, the service staff in the hotels and the resorts. I don't see Singaporeans. They went to work permit holders, S pass holders, and EP pass holders. And I mean, to the point, they keep selling the narrative, all these jobs that Singaporeans do not want. But even in this, while we can say that these jobs in the integrated resorts are private sector, what about the government hospitals? It's become a bit ridiculous. You walk into the government hospital, the one who is doing your admin is a foreigner. The doctor or nurses is a foreigner. The one who checks you out is a foreigner. And this is government hospitals. That Singaporeans do not want that job, or if there are not enough qualified Singaporean nurses or pharmacists for the, in the pharmacy, the qualified pharmacists, they do not have enough Singaporean pharmacists. If that is the case, all these years, what has the Ministry of Education been doing with regards to the planning or allocation of courses? Is the question that I want to ask. It's not just a single ministry like the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Manpower, but the Ministry of Education as well. So it is, I would say that the ministers have got to use data, get together and plan into the future, because Ministry of Education is ultimately a ministry of the future. It's not the here and now. That is the more of the Ministry of the Trade and Industry. The Ministry of the Manpower is to trade and industry is for commerce, economics, business, while the Ministry of Manpower is for the jobs. It is the here and now. Education is the future. So we've got to plan towards the next 5 years, the next 10 years, to make sure that there are jobs available for our polytechnic diploma people who are studying, our citizens, our children who are studying in our local diplomas in our local polytechnics. When they come out, that there is jobs. When they are studying, the degree graduates in the universities, that there is jobs for them, that once they graduate. That's the point I would like to hit out strongly, and I would like to make.
Indeed. So I've written something about that in my book as well. Yeah, and basically we do. Okay, so we do need a.
So with regards to the book, once again, Love Singapore Vision 2020. Make sure you guys reach out to Michael or myself and get a copy and read it, because if we once again we want people to read, analyze and understand the factor of DIY, do it yourself. And so that's where there will be a certain appreciation for it. But let's say if everything like I tell you, Michael tells you, or like Uncle Leong Sze Hian or Lim Tian tells you, or Pritam Singh tells you, you would not do it yourself, analyze and form your own opinions. So I would like to encourage a big point on reading, and get this book, read, and once you read, you can form your own opinions, whether you agree or disagree. Then you can take it up with Dr. Michael. We will be more than glad to read, engage and discuss with you, and maybe in future editions we would like to put in your viewpoints and suggestions to it. Yeah, and we give you due credit. We would not plagiarize your work, something like We Can Achieve, like the Indian songwriter on Count on Me Singapore. We would give you credit and publish in the new edition of the book, and we would so that more Singaporeans is the benefit of Singaporeans. So wow, we have almost spoken for 2 hours, you know. Oh my goodness, time really
I think
flies when
time
you're
really
having a
flies,
good
yeah.
time discussing these issues. 1 minute, 1 hour and 53 minutes we have been live. So, Michael.
Yes, I think it's a good end to our discussions today, and I think we have given much food for thought for Singaporeans, yeah, to think about and basically make their own decisions, yeah. So with that, I'd like to hand it back to Prabu. I think we can call it a day, I suppose.
So just before we leave on this, right, the point that I once again would like to make is, right, that I want people to have more inputs. I want ordinary people to take your points, whether the government agrees or not. Go to your Meet the People session, make sure you speak to your MP, tell them about the issues of cost of living, tell them about the issues of the HDB, the CPF, your jobs, and like if your wages are being pushed down, if you have been displaced by foreign PMETs or work pass holders, S pass or EP pass holders, make sure that your MP knows. It's not just the opposition MPs in Aljunied and Sengkang GRC or Hougang SMC, PAP MPs as well. Make sure that they know, and make sure that they not just know, you know, but make sure that they do something about it. They are in a position of power where their party forms the government, and if either they do some, put it this way, I'm always for progress and action, you know. Either you do something about it, it gets worse, then you try to fix it something, or you do something about it, you do something about it, you implement, and you improve the situation. But we cannot have a situation where nothing gets done, or when there is action but is inefficient, ineffective, but yet you have a feeling that nothing is being done, but behind the scenes the action is going on, but it's not effective and efficient.
So just to
results.
drop a teaser, in my book, actually, I mentioned about the open job university concept, yeah? And this would actually help Singaporeans a lot. So I hope that you guys will buy and purchase the book and basically take a look at it, yeah? And encourage your friends to get one too. So with that, I think we have had a long day, but we can end.
Yeah.
Conversation.
Before we end, I would also like to ask for your subscribe, and comments. Make sure that you share this post for other people who have missed the show. They can still watch it on Facebook. It will still be there. And as you can see, this is a live, robust discussion. It's uncut, unedited, raw footage that is out there. So feel free to copy and paste as well, not just to share on Facebook, but copy and paste to share it on any and all available platforms like Twitter, like on Instagram, like on Telegram, like on WhatsApp. Make sure that fellow Singaporeans listen to this. Whether or not they agree or they disagree is another thing. Make sure that people listen to this. Make sure that people read more, understand more, and actually ask more questions. That's what I would like to ask for. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and share. So we rely on average, ordinary, hardworking people such as yourself to make sure that the message gets carried forward, any and all message. And it's not like we do not advertise, or we are not a multi-million dollar or billion-dollar corporation or company that we advertise. We do not. Ours is seriously organic, so that is something good to speak about. So with that being said, we would leave today and enjoy rest of your Sunday. And when we started was morning, and now it's already afternoon, so enjoy your lunch, go and makan, support the local makan places, the coffee shops and all. Time for lunch, and we would be adjourning for lunch at some coffee shops. I would be uploading some SME videos. Stay tuned, and yeah, with that, we'll be leaving. Bye bye, see you
See you
guys.
guys. Enjoy.